Hi guys, welcome to another video. This is a video I actually haven't done before, so it is really interesting. But I thought I would just do a route guide for the bike course at IRONMAN Swansea 70.3 for 2023. There has been some significant changes, and I'm looking at the published route which went out in March, and I've ridden this already. So I thought I'd be in a good position to tell you what the difference is from last year, some of the highlights, some of the dangers, where it's going to be quicker, where it's going to be a little bit slower, what to look out for, and just give my general opinion about the course and whether it's going to be faster or not. And I think that's what most of you probably want to hear. On top of that, I just want to firstly say I do recommend you all to ride it if you possibly can. I'm just giving you some information about the course, but to really understand it, I really highly suggest that you go do a loop of it maybe once or twice and really get your head into it, especially if you really want a good time or this is your main event of the year. And also, this could change. It could change the week before the event, but I'm going on the one which is recently published, and I must say we were going down to Oxford, but I think Ironman have listened to a lot of the local riders and groups about some of the dangers of that course, and I think they have listened and have done a really good course this year, and I just want to applaud them for that. But let's go straight into it and let's discuss firstly the first part of the course. Okay, so I've got my laptop in front of me, so I'm going to be looking straight, but you can see I've circled basically the first part of the course after the swim out of T1 along the seafront. This is completely flat, same as last year if you remember it. But it's a good couple of miles out, really allows you to get some food in, some drink, and to try and bring your heart rate down after the swim. But you'll be flat out here, absolutely on it, and gives you some time to think about what you're coming up against. Straight on to section 2, which I've circled, which is pretty much around Mumbles up to Langland. This is your first proper climb, basically. It starts off quite gradual, and when you see the Mumbles Pier sign, that's when you know it starts to go a little bit more uphill. But coming back to the image then, when you come around sort of the front and start to go through the village, there's some steep sort of peaks basically, and it's quite undulating. But this is pretty much you're always climbing, not much rest. So good to have a think about how you're going to hit this, and this is really going to set you up for the rest of the race. But yeah, you can push a little bit here. If we look at the next bit circled just after Langland, this is one of the danger spots, especially from last year's course, and especially if you don't know the route. This is a very long, I wouldn't say long, but it's a very steep descent. I looked at my Strava last year and I hit around about 40, maybe a little bit long, a little bit faster. But basically, if you look at the image now, this is coming to the end of that descent. It's a blind left-hand turn, and if we look at it, there's an island in the middle. I can't remember if we had to go left or right last year, but I think we did go left around the island. So if you come into this with too much speed, you're going to know about it, and that's probably going to write you off for the course. So just make sure that you know where you go in. You're going to be, brake, slow in, fast out. And there will be a marshal at the bottom, and to be fair, he was pretty good last year. But you essentially want to do all your braking before the turn, because if you just look up ahead, there's a significant climb which is for the average rider going to be 3 to 6 minutes long, and it's steep. You have got a little bit of rest before Langland, but this is going to be the second significant climb that you're going to come against. It's steep, levels out a little bit, but still gradual, and then at the end there's a right-hand turn which is very steep. So make sure that you keep your speed, because if you brake and then you're really slow here, you're not going to carry any momentum into that hill, and that does have a massive effect on the amount of time that you're going to save. Okay, so we're going to look at the Bishopston Valley sort of bit of this. So it's Bishopston to Southgate and back. This is a bit of a new part of the course. So where we go out of Bishopston, which you can see, and where the course goes on to the circle, there's a little steep climb there. It's only about a minute, but you have got some time to get your breath back after the climb out to Langland. So short and sharp, but nice. Where we look at the map, where it says Pinard Road and there's the right, that's what we did last year. So we didn't go out and back. We turned immediately right when we got to there. Now we've got a bit of a fast TT section, and what this will allow you to do from last year is to get some time on the TT bars, but two, just to recover. And what you'll find with this year's course is, yes, the climbs are a bit sharper, but they're not as compiled together. You've actually got some gaps in between, which I think is nicer for most riders. Okay, so if we just look at the Pinard Golf Club sort of section where we come to the turnaround point, when you see the golf club on your right, you know you're going to be coming close to the village. And just to be wary, because the actual village itself is a very narrow road, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be like one of those single file sections where you're not allowed to overtake. So this is going to be quite busy as well with people coming out and back. So just be careful when you're overtaking. But this part of the course is very, very quick and has some significant sort of benefits from last year. One, like I said, for resting, but two, getting that average speed up, and it's going to make your overall time quicker. This is the turnaround point then. Hopefully we'll have a bit of support through the village. But this is also a good place to stop as well if you're going to do a training ride, something like that, especially if you're coming from a little bit further than Swansea. But yeah, this is going to be a turnaround point. And again, remember, because you're going to be coming back the way that you came, it may be quite busy. But coming back to the original map then, we can see that we're going to turn left then back onto the old course. And I think that's going to be quite good. I think it's going to allow you to have a lot of rest, but it also takes in a lot more spectator support out on course. So fingers crossed that would be better this year. Okay, so we turn left, we join the original course. You've got quite a long bit of stretch. You turn left and basically following the castle wall, and you drop down to Park Mill. The Park Mill descent is quite fast, quite long. What I would say is just to let you know that on my training ride, that road is a little bit dangerous at the moment. There's potholes across the whole road. I have flagged them to the council. Fingers crossed they get it sorted. But if you are going to do the course, just be careful on that descent. Then basically we're going to go to Nicholston over to Reynoldstown. This is an original part of the course. So the climb out of Park Mill, if I show you here, is long. This is going to be the next climb that you'll come against. It starts off quite gradual, and then the last left right hand sort of switchy turn is very steep. So make sure that you have plenty of rest on the descent and use that out and back, which is the new section before this, to really sort of regain your sort of momentum and to rest and recover. This climb is probably going to be roughly 4 to 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes for your for most riders. I'm sure the pros are going to go absolutely fly up here. But yeah, it's not too bad, short and sharp, but just make sure that you're ready for it and you're in the sort of right gearing. This is why it's worth going out to practice. This year you're going to be coming towards the camera, and last year we carried on this road, but we're going to be turning right this year and turning straight to Kevin Bryn basically. Last year we went straight on down an old country road, and then we did the old walls climb up to the halfway mark. This is where it's significantly different from last year, and this is where, one, you'll find it's going to be a better course for everyone, but two, it gets rid of some of the climbs and descents which were a little bit sketchy. So basically you'll come up, and it's a gradual climb to this part, nothing too major. Again, good to get your breath back, but you can keep a really good speed if you want to. And you'll turn 180 degrees, and you'll turn on to the end of Kevin Bryn. So we hit this quite late in the race last year, but this year we're doing the Kevin Bryn climb very, very early, and that's pretty good because it gets it out of the way whilst you're a little bit more fresh. And it's the only bit we're going to do is the steep part at the end this year. If we look at the descent then, it's a very, very long descent, so you are rewarded with a lot of time to rest and recover, but to gain your momentum, get up to speed. This descent is long and it looks really inviting, which it is. You can stay in the TT bars, but I would say just be careful if you are not confident, because there are some bumps once you go down here and you're going to be hitting your top speed basically down here. So if you do have a road bike like myself with TT bars, you may be better off going on the drops, but I would say only go on the TT bars if you are very confident. You are open to the elements up here, and it can get windy on the Gower coast, and that goes for the whole course really, especially for the first part to the out and back. Just be careful of wind, because it can really alter your sort of positioning and your confidence. But if you are confident, you can hit this pretty fast, and yeah, it's really enjoyable. And if we just look quickly, then you're going to be coming down the hill where that silver car is, and you'll be turning left. I've only added this in because, one, this is where we joined last year, and two, this is your joining point for the second lap. So you'll be coming here and you'll sort of remember where you're going, because this is where you've joined on. Okay, so the next part which I've circled is pretty much what you're going to be doing 2 laps of. Takes in a lot of last year's course, but then has a lot of new changes as well in terms of more country lanes, and where you joined before Swansea Airport. So I would say this is a very important part of the route. If you practice it once, you're going to be knowing where you're going for the second loop. So yeah, I think this is very, very good course. And there's some climbs which you may recognise, and then the actual country roads they're using are a better quality than last year, so it should be a little bit better. But there are some bits to look at. Okay, so the first climb is, some of you may recognise it from last year. It was just after Old Walls Cafe, which you can visit. So we're going to be coming down the hill, doing a 180 turn and going up that country lane basically. If you want a cafe stop, this is roughly halfway in. If you're on your first loop, so you're about 25 to 26 miles in here. If you carry on where this car is on the main road downwards, you'll get to Old Walls Cafe, and they were really accommodating last year and did quite a big celebration on the day. So it'd be really good to support those people who are running Old Walls Cafe if possible. But on the day of the event, you're going to be doing a 180 and up this climb. Again, this climb is long. It's not steep. It's just nice and gradual. It's going to take the average person probably 3 to 5 minutes, so it's nothing long. And there's some little descents in between, so you can have a little rest. But there's one main climb at the very start. For the ones who remember last year, you got a nice long section up the top, which you can get back up to speed. You'll turn right, and it's just a nice sort of gradual climb again. Where we got to by here with this White House, we turned right by this van. This year we're going to be going straight. And I believe it's going to be a better section because it's, 1, better paved, 2, less turns, and there's not a steep sort of descent and then quite a short and sharp climb back up. So plenty of time to be in the TT bars, plenty of time to get up to speed and have a faster bike course. And then this is where you're going to be coming back out onto the main road. Before this section, there's a little descent, nothing major, and there's a little climb out. The little climb out at the moment, if you're going to practice, is a bit muddy and a bit loose surface, but I'm sure that they'll probably clean the road before we all hit it on the day, so it should be a little bit safer than what it is now. When you go up here as well, just be careful. There's one of the houses looking after a Highland cow which lives on the moors, so you may come across him, and just be careful, but he is cool to look at. And this is where you will remember last year, you come down the right way here, you do a 180, and then you back onto the main road in front of Swansea Airport. Again, very, very fast. Fingers crossed we'll have the wind in our favour and you'll be able to get up to speed here. But this is a really good recovery point as well, because you go 1 lap in, you can get some fluid, some food down here, and you know what's coming up in the second loop. Park Mill is going to be everyone's worst nightmare. This is going to be the hardest climb on the course. it's an average of 17 to 18%, but I think it does max out at a plus 20%. And if it's wet and maybe you're not a confident climber, I can see a lot of people walking up this climb. I'm glad it's in, and that's what I want to say, because I think it's a good challenge. I don't think an Ironman bike route should be easy, and I think it should be relatable to the rest of the race. We've got quite an easy swim and a very flat run course, so to have a good challenging bike course does make it better in the day. So and that's my opinion basically, and it's good to have something which may throw something you know, in the works and maybe challenge some people and not challenge some people. And I'm more of a climber than a TT, so I'm really happy. But if we come on to it, this is where you're going to turn right. So on the first section of the day, you're going to go straight on, but on the second loop you're going to turn right here. And this is really interesting. It's a very, very steep climb. You've got some good cafe stops here as well if you do want to stop. This is probably the steepest part of it, and it's a left and a right hand switchback, and they're about 50 to 60 meters in on this climb. I suggest you don't go to the insides, because that's where you're going to have the most difficult time, because they're the steepest parts. So make sure when you've got a nice open road to use the whole of the turns, so that you can keep your momentum, keep your cadence nice, and it should allow you to get up there quicker and easier. So make sure you are aware of this climb. Make sure you know it's coming up. If you can't practice before, know that this is around the 32-33 mile mark, I believe. And you know it's going to sting your legs. You know your legs are going to be quite numb after this. After that, we have a short descent out of London. And I must say that climb, is from Park Mill to London, so you'll sort of know where it is on a map. And then out of London, we've got this sort of descent down to the riverbed. Just another pointer here. This is quite a dangerous road. On the camera here, it looks really clean. But when I rode it last week, it's all loose surface, lots of sort of stony pebble stuff. And you don't want to see something coming the other way, because it's quite difficult to stop. Yeah, just kept sliding when I was touching the brakes. So just be careful when you are practicing, and fingers crossed that they clean it up on the day. Then from this, you'll do a little gradual climb, nothing major. And then you'll be back onto the main road. And as you can see here, back to where we were earlier, we're going to be turning right here back onto the second lap of the course, which you can see. I would say good to practice this part. You may only want to do it once if you're well known to the area. If you haven't got days to come up and practice it, do it twice, and you shouldn't have a good sort of perception of what you're going to have on the day, basically. What I would say is there's a lot of high hedges, especially when you get into the country lanes. So just really be careful on your practice days. It's not race day. I suggest you just slow it down a little bit. If there's some blind corners, really just take your time, because it's quite a busy farmland area, and we want to get on with the locals as well. So just please make sure that you do take your time, and you can go fast as you want on race day, but just make sure that you know where you're going. And it's quite a good thing to do as well, because when you go a little bit slower, you can start to look over the hedges, see what's coming up, and then on race day you'll have a better sort of perception of what's coming up, because you know that you've studied it a little bit better. And then on the return leg, when you finish your second loop, this is where you come onto this loop at the very, very beginning. So you're going to be going back the same way which you came back over to sort of Langland area. So again, when you get to here, you've got a long flat bit over Swansea Airport. You'll turn left here, and you've got a nice sort of steady road back over to there as well. And if we just carry on a little bit quickly then, you can see where we come back onto Pennard Road, and then we've got Kittle. Really small climb up to Kittle, and you can see it on that sharp right-hand turn. Your legs are going to hurt by there. It is a steep climb, so make sure you've got some food and some nutrition down you coming back past Swansea Airport. Swansea Airport's a good one to visualise because you can see the runway. You know that's a good place to get some food down you, to get some nutrition and maybe just relax the legs a little bit before what's coming up. And yeah, that's just a bit of a steep climb. Just be prepared for it. Get the speed on the downhill. Try and take out as much uphill as possible with the speed that you've gained, and then just keep spinning your legs up to Merton basically. And then you go past Klein Golf Club down the Klein Common. Just something to note here. I looked at the Ironman map and it says to turn right and go back down to Mumbles. It said that on last year's route course, and we did end up going down Klein Common, so that may be the same this year. But this is a very fast descent. Just be a little bit careful. There's some speed bumps, and you'll have plus 30 miles per hour speed here if you're a confident rider. And you just don't want to come out the line basically. And there's a lot of sort of shady, sunlighty areas, so your vision and perception may be a little bit different, so just be careful down there. That's the climb, out of Kittle. So you can see this is the more gradual part of it. It's quite long and it kicks up right for the end. But when you do see these set of traffic lights, whether you come down the common way or we go through Mumbles and back, you know when you see the Texaco garage and the main road back to Swansea, this is going to be your last chance basically to have a flat bit of road before you hit transition. This is where you'll want to get some food in you, take some recovery, maybe get ready for your run, and you'll have a roughly, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes, unless you're very, very fast down here, before you hit transition. So you may want to start thinking about what's next. How do you feel? Do you need to get anything down you? So okay, and that's the Swansea bike course basically. So is it going to be quicker on race day? When I rode it, it was pretty much perfect conditions, very similar to last year in terms of temperature wise, no wind. And I did my race day at 23 miles per hour average last year, and that resulted in a bike time of roughly 2 hours 45, if I can remember. I did this route on the weekend, averaging 19 miles per hour, and I did it in 2 hours 50. So I was only 5 minutes slower, and my average speed was not 23, it was 19. So I think it is going to be quicker on the race day if conditions are similar to last year. My sort of 3 top tips for this year compared to last year: 1, get some more time in the time trial bars. There is significant areas this year where you can sit in your bars and gain a lot of time. Or someone like me who's got multiple sort of drops, tops or TT bars. That TT bars, especially with the out and back now, less climbing up the top of Kevin Bryn, and more flat sort of country lane roads when they're shut, are going to be very, very fast. Going to be a lot easier to keep that speed. My second tip is probably to get used to riding some country lanes, high hedges and things like that. So look in further than probably what you want to. When you come into a turn, maybe looking over the hedge and seeing, okay, the tree line is going left, I know it's going to be a sharp turn or not, or if it's going to be long. I think that's quite important, because otherwise you'll be slamming on your brakes, losing all your speed, and then using a lot of energy to get back up to speed. If you can see what's coming up and you can be slow in, fast out, I think that's certainly going to help you. And then my third sort of tip then is just your nutrition and knowing what's coming up. I've got a Wahoo Element, and I can plug in notes into this. So for race day, I'll tell myself climb coming up, 5 out of 10 difficulty. I'll have every 20 minutes, eat here, drink here, Swansea Airport, grab some nutrition, so that I'm not getting carried away. I think you don't really want to get carried away on the first part of the course, because if you hit Park Mill and you hit that 20% hill for the average person 2 to 4 minutes, and you've got tired legs by that point, you're really going to struggle on the second part of the course, and that's going to be a stinger. So really keeping to your plan is going to be really important, and executing that only happens on race day if you practice that. So that's important, and just get used to a bit more sharper climbs. Last year they were a little bit longer, and we had the really long one from the back of Kevin Bryn. This year they're short and sharp, so just maybe get used to that sort of 2 to 5 minute hard efforts more than the sort of 4 to 9 minute efforts. So I think that's important. And lastly, like I said at the start, go out if you can, ride the course. It's a really enjoyable course, great views. It can get windy on times, but there's great cafes and places to stop, and the Gower is a really nice place to be. So I really hope you found this helpful. Obviously this is my experience of it, some people may have different, and I hope that it's been simplistic but easy to sort of listen and watch as well. So fingers crossed we all do well on the day, and fingers crossed there's no wind and conditions play to our favour, but I shall hopefully see you all on the start line, and really best of luck if you are racing. I shall see you at the finish, fingers crossed.